Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Edward Drake, and I'm a junior consultant at Turner & Townsend. We are joined today by Gareth Field from Turner & Townsend. This is a retrofit information support and expertise event, which is fully funded by the Department of Energy, Security and Net Zero, which is delivered by Turner & Townsend. There will be a relatively short presentation today, followed by plenty of opportunity for questions and discussions, and the event will be roughly an hour long, and we will finish on time. I ask that you could please keep your microphones muted and your cameras switched off during this presentation. The slide deck will be made available after the event in a follow-up email to everyone that attended today, and there will be a clean recording of this and other masterclasses in the resources section of the RISE website. We will provide all our useful links in the chat. Please ask questions in the chat functions as we go along, and there'll be an opportunity to ask questions directly at the end of the presentation. And finally, there will be a quick poll and a word cloud at the end of the session. So please complete them to help us kind of understand the level of understanding and knowledge in our topics. So thank you all for attending again. I will now hand over to Gareth Field to start today's presentation.
Hi, good afternoon and welcome. So as it is, there is a presentation today around developing your communication and engagement plan. So very simply, why do we need to sort this out? If we don't, we're just going to find ourselves at lots and lots of locked front doors, with residents not letting us into their homes to develop our retrofit program. So, we've probably all sitting here kind of going, yeah, we've experienced that. We've had that painful, uncomfortable situation where we're trying to get access. So this presentation is around developing that plan so that you can then go on and deliver it. And it's an opportunity to kind of look at the engagement and communications as one, instead of separating them out and having two different sort of agendas on there. So if you've got any questions as we go along, please put them in the chat. We'll come back to those at the end if I haven't already answered it. And then, as Ed said, at the end, we'll have that opportunity to have those conversations for you to ask questions, and for myself to share my experience, but also hopefully other people on the call to be able to share their experience of what they've learned around resident engagement and things that have helped and things that haven't helped. So we'll move on. So yeah, as I was saying, we're going to look at the importance of communication engagement plans, thinking around stakeholders and how we might tailor our communications in relation to the stakeholders. We're going to look at actually that developing your plan and actually pulling it together and what kind of things need to be in your development plan, so that you are covering all the things you need to think, and you can think about all the different ways that you're going to do this engagement and the different types of comms and resources you're going to need. We're going to look a little bit on ideas for engagement. So what can you be doing? How can you be doing it? And running through that, we'll be thinking about equality, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. So how do we embed that within all of this marketing and communications and engagement? Got a few top tips. We say really interested. If anybody else has got any top tips at the end there, chuck them in the chat. Let's share them. Let's kind of help each other so that we've got that opportunity to learn and then grow this, because actually, this is, as I say, really, really important. Why is it so important at the moment? So people have seen that the Warm Homes grants have become available. So the Social Housing Fund has just been launched and the local grant is about to be launched. So within both of those, resident engagement is key. Being able to get access to do the work and be able to kind of find the residents, find the right homes, and then be able to get them on board for the activity that you want to do in that home to make it more energy efficient. Without that, as I say, lots and lots of locked front doors you're not going to get past unless you can do this resident engagement well. So yeah, so I've seen this so many times where somebody has developed an engagement plan, and then at the last point they've gone, brilliant, right, communications team, deliver this, here you go, and they all go, sorry, too busy, too much else on at the moment, or that's fine, but it's not going to work, or how do you want us to do that? You've got no budget for creating a video, etc., etc. So it's brilliant. Somebody's put in there chicken and egg. The original version of this slide was chicken and egg. I had a chicken and an egg on the screen, but apparently didn't meet the brand guidelines. So I've had to change that, but exactly that. Which comes first? Actually, they both come first. They both come at the same time. And for me, that's the key thing with this. If you take away one thing from this presentation, Communications and engagement go hand in hand throughout the whole process. And these start early. So even when you're starting to think about pulling together your list of homes, so if you're a social housing provider and you're at that point at the moment going, right, where are my 500 homes? As you're pulling together that list, start thinking about who you're going to bring in for your communications and engagement, even at that stage, because they have valuable things to say about what they can and can't do and what you are going to be able to do. So, you might have this great plan to put up a web page, but actually until you talk to the communications team and they go, no, we haven't got any capacity for any more web pages, or whatever it is. So bringing them in early helps steer it, and it helps steer the project. So they can give you valuable insights onto what you can and can't do, which will help steer your project. So they might know that that area has a huge kind of farming community, and actually trying to do anything in there in the autumn is just a waste of time. They're all going to be really busy. They're not going to allow you access to the homes. They're just working flat out on the farms. So it's all that kind of stuff that you need to kind of engage. It's us engaging with that communications and engagements teams to make sure that we're being successful. So key point takeaway from today is do it early and do it together. These two go hand in hand throughout this process. So if you're thinking about it, why are we engaging? And there's an interesting term. We all use this term engagement really, really sort of almost kind of sort of offhand. We just use it. We don't really think about what it means. So today we'll be talking about engagement, and we'll be talking about involvement. So for me, involvement is when they are actively involved. They're actively doing something in the project. Whereas you can do engagement and they're not involved in the same way. So when we're talking about involvement, we're talking about involvement in decision making. So it might be that they're actually informing decisions that you're making around the scheme of works that you're going to do, or where you're going to work, or how you're going to work. They can reduce the risk of refusals. So you do engagement right, you get people on board, you get them inspired and encouraged, actually reducing the risk of refusals. So it helps maintain interest and achieve buy-in. Just this morning I had a colleague contact me. The contractors on this project have been running on, and now the residents are refusing access. So they've done so much work on these homes and they're just refusing access at the end. So it's kind of like continual buy-in and continual engagement will keep them involved and keep that front door from opening, so they can get in and finish off the projects completely. And one of the other purposes of engagement is actually some of that communication. So actually us being out on the streets, talking to residents, etc., is part of that communication and engagement together. So as I will say, they come hand in hand. So purpose of communications is sometimes it's around informing. So actually being able to just send messages and being able to keep people informed about what's going on. We do it all the time with our chief execs or our managers, don't we? We just inform them of what's going on. We don't want them involved. We're just keeping them on. That's that very basic form of communication. They can help us with developing the understanding of the process of what you're going to go through and how you might go through it. So they might be able to help you with if you're wanting access on the 1st of October, at what point do you start your communications and your channels with them to get access on the 1st of October? So they're informing that process. It's a great way to celebrate success. So let's not forget that. We should be singing it from the housetops, don't we? That actually we're doing amazing stuff for the residents by doing retrofit, by retrofitting homes in our communities. It's making life-changing differences to residents. So let's celebrate that. Let's go and tell that story. Again, risks of refusals. We'll keep coming back to this. So it reduces that risk of refusals. And if you do your communication well, your engagement is going to work. If you do engagement well, your communication works. So as you say, the two really, really build together, and to make it really, really effective to kind of work together. You're probably going to get bored of this theme of the two running along hand in hand by the end of the session. So just kind of bear with me. So we'll start by moving on to some sort of conversations around stakeholders. So as we start any of this, we're thinking about engagement and communication. We need to know who Who is it? And what do you know about them? So I've worked for some organizations where they've done some really, really deep market segmentation about the audience, and they've kind of gone, right, the whole of the nation fits into these 9 categories of people. And that happens across the board in marketing. So actually, what do we know about these audiences? How do they receive information? How are they going to engage with information? What kind of magazines do they read, etc.? There's an unbelievable amount of resource out there helping you communicate and helping you engage with residents. So, what do you know about them? Who are they? What are they interested in? Where, do they have, is it a strong community with a certain religion? So actually there's something that you need to understand there about how to communicate with them and what days you can and can't engage with them, etc., etc. What's their interest? So, who are they and what's their interest? So chief financial officer, so the CFO, is going to have a really different interest in that retrofit project to the resident. They're going to want to know different information. They're going to want to know different timelines of that information, and it'll probably think about it very differently. One will be very analytical, and one will be very hard. So you want to do what to my house versus how much money are you spending and when, and in what timescales. We need to understand what they can do to hinder or help the project. So any stakeholder, they have different levels of influence across what you're doing. So some of them will be really, really influential, and will help you open doors and will help you get in. Some might be really, really noisy and cause you loads and loads of hindrance, but they don't actually help in the project. So it's understanding what they can and can't do for those. And within all that, you need to think about how you're going to communicate with them. So engage with them. So whether is it online, is it post, is it face to face? I've got a 15-year-old child. The only way I can feel like I can communicate with him is through Snapchat. We've all got those situations, haven't we? So trying to understand that, trying to think really, really clearly about what's going to do, what's going to work, and what's going to be effective. I've seen it so many times where it's like, but I've written a letter to them and therefore I should have access. They've probably not read the letter. It's probably in the wrong language. It's probably not written in a way that they understand. It's almost certainly going to use language that they don't understand. So actually, how are we going to do that? What's going to be their preferences? How is that going to work? So all stuff for us to be thinking about, all stuff for us to be actioning as we're going, right, okay, we've got these stakeholders. What are we going to do with them? We've got to think about what we're engaging our stakeholders on. So what are the negotiables? So we can sit here and go, right, we're going to involve all our residents in every part of this. And you'll get a street and you'll get somebody going, well, I want an air source heat pump. And the other one saying, I don't want an air source heat pump. And the other one saying, oh, I've heard about these infrared radiators. I want those, please. And the other one else are going, actually, I just want external wall insulation. And everyone will be different. So actually, what is it that you can engage them with, and what is it you can't involve them in decision making? So, if you're going for the funded delivery, some of the outcomes aren't negotiable. So achieving EPCC is part of that funding. But where you position the air source heat pump fan could be very negotiable. So actually, it could be at the back of the house, it could be at the side of the house, it could be at the front of the house. Those are the kind of things you need to think about. When is it going to happen? And completion dates of the program. So, those could be negotiable. So actually, if you're talking to a street and they've go, we've very much involved in this religious festival on these dates. Okay, can we avoid that? Fantastic. That's the kind of thing that we can negotiate, and we can move our work and change our program to fit with those residents. Or we could be going, actually, we have to complete it by 2028. That's a deadline, but between then you have got some flex. So some things around appearance. So, the colours of the new items in the homes, yeah, they should have a say in that. Any visual impact in the outdoors, in their gardens, in their open spaces outside, they can have that. You can have that negotiation, that involvement in it. Can they tell you what's the best thing to fit to achieve EPCC in their home? Probably not, because they'll probably all stand there and go, I want solar panels, please, because they know they're going to reduce their electricity bills, and they don't understand in the same way that cavity wall insulation will, or external wall insulation will, or loft insulation. So there's things that we own, and we need to communicate with them and effectively tell them the story about why cavity wall insulation is really, really good, and why it's going to change their bills and how it can affect the warmth of their homes. But what we can involve them with is actually what color are we going to paint the render after we've done the cavity wall insulation? What how can they affect how it looks on the outside of their home, etc., etc. So you start to understand the difference between the things they can be involved with and the things that we're communicating with. So there's an engagement of negotiables, things that can change, and then there's communication of the things that we can't change, the things that we have to achieve if we want to use the funding and get the retrofit works done. So it's a real balancing act. It's really, really challenging. I've just put on the bottom there, engaging your stakeholders in non-negotiable outcomes can destroy the success of a project. There is nothing worse than when you're going out with this kind of, oh, it's a blank sheet of paper. What can we come up with? And they tell you, they want 15 park benches and a swing, and you're going, well, that's great, but actually we're going to fit 15 air source heat pumps and some solar panels. That's just that they're going to completely lose trust in you, completely lose faith in your organization, and you've just lost all that access and all that goodwill. So what are the negotiables? What can you do and what can't you do? And being honest and clear about that so that people understand and people don't get the wrong impression. So you've understood stakeholders, you've worked out what the negotiables, what is it you want to do. So actually it's really useful to do some stakeholder mapping. So the who is it? So thinking about external people, thinking about internal people. So people in your organization as well as people outside of your organization. Okay, so obviously resident groups, community groups, MPs. We, in the last retrofit program I delivered, we regularly got letters from our MP. It was almost like a hindrance, and we did it and we processed it because he was important organisationally. But in relation to the retrofit project, actually we probably would have been better just to have kept sending him a newsletter every 2 months about where we'd got to and what we'd done, so that he had that knowledge. So learning and all this stuff, those letters caused us a load of grief at each time. And if we'd actually been better at just kind of communicating with him and getting information to them more regularly, would have saved us a load of work. Thinking about our retrofit program, the most common probably thing to talk to is the customer services team. Those people who answer the phones day in, day out, week in, week out, and they will get the phone calls going, so-and-so is coming to do something to my house. I don't know what it is. And they'll be the people who'll be advocates for you. So making sure that they're informed and they know what's happening and they can communicate that with them, communicate effectively with that. So I think they call it boilerplate comms, where you can just sit there on their desk and it's just there, and when they want it, they can just grab it and read it and be able to communicate effectively to the residents who are phoning up going, I've got somebody who wants to come into my house to do something called an EPC. I don't know what it is. I don't know why you want to do that to my house. Those guys can answer those calls for you and help it. So you've kind of done that, thinking about who the people are. You've then got an assessment of actually what's their ability to influence. Can this person or group change the direction of the project? Okay, so a resident can stop a retrofit by refusing access. They have a huge ability to influence your delivery. A community group for other group of residents can stop you from delivering your retrofit program to a whole community. So actually their ability to influence is huge. So actually kind of do that assessment. And then the other side of it is how much interest does that person group have in the project? They might have a huge amount of ability to influence, but they've got no interest. So you need to think about actually there's something we can do about inspiring them, encouraging them, engaging them with that, becoming interested and passionate about your project. Or is it actually, it's great, they have little interest in it and they're not going to cause you any kind of impact upon delivery. So go through that thought pattern, go through those processes, and then you need to start mapping it out. So here's a really basic template. You can just use that. It works like a risk assessment. So I'll just put some examples in there. So the CEO, if you're delivering a retrofit project in a small housing association, has a huge ability to influence what happens and has a huge interest in what you're doing. So, you need to engage with them. You need to kind of really, really properly work with them. If we're talking about one of the huge housing associations with tens and tens of thousands of homes, and you're delivering a small retrofit project, yes, they still have that huge ability to influence, but they probably have very little interest in you. So that's where you're just into that kind of informing, just kind of sending a message out or consulting with them, so that they are aware and they know what's happening. So keeping this appropriate to the organisation you're in and the situation you're in. So as you can see there, residents, huge impact, ability to influence what you're doing, huge interest in what's going on. So they're the highest of the high. Whereas some of your faith groups in some communities might have very little impact and very little ability to influence, but in other areas they're going to be really high. So know your community, know where you're working. So go back to that. What do you know about your audience? What do you know about that? So if you've gone through that process, and that will be a big process, you will have a lot of names in there. So I delivered a project when I was working at the National Trust, and the stakeholder assessment went on to about sort of 4 or 5 sheets of A4, just pages and pages and pages of stakeholders across the whole project. So get it done and get it thought through, and then you can start thinking about what you're going to do for those different levels. Once you've done that, it's then really useful to track this. So to have a tracking record, so you can actually monitor what stakeholder engagement you've done, when you've done it, when was the last time you communicated with an organisation or a stakeholder, etc. So, put on there another example, the CEO, we decided that we would engage with them. So who they are, what their preferences are, their contact details, and their preferences. When did we last communicate with them, and what was it? So very simple. Again, you've done your mapping, and then you're moving on to having sort of a tracking process. So actually every 3 months you need to send newsletters to these different people. So when you create your newsletters, you've then got your mailing list of who you're sending those newsletters out to, so that they're keeping informed, they're keeping engaged in the process and helping, and they're feeling valued, etc., etc. So do your assessments, make sure you track it, so then keep that record. So it can become a really big job. So if you're talking about a 3,000, 5,000 home retrofit program, you're going to have a lot of stakeholders. You're going to have a lot of tracking of it. I honestly believe and swear it's so valuable, it's worth having a member of staff involved with this. So kind of having somebody on a project team or resident liaison partner who's tracking this stakeholder management and stakeholder tracking, so you're keeping on top of it. Otherwise it just falls off the boil and you're back to that situation where you've promised to engage, you've promised to inform them what's going on, and then you've forgotten about it because they've fallen off the radar, and then suddenly they're into the, well, you're not coming in, we're not helping you, bump. You've lost all that engagement opportunity, you've lost all that sort of buy-in and support. So you've done all that. Whew, you're tired, but you've got a way forward. You know what you're going to do. Okay, so this is about creating that plan and that delivery of this work. So we've talked about the negotiables. What is the question you need an answer to? So you're going to go out and you've got this audience that you really want to engage and involve. What is the question you need an answer to? So by the end of today, we need an answer on what colour we're going to paint the doors. We need an answer on where Mrs. Miggin wants her air source heat pump fitted. Whatever it is, what's that answer? What is it you're going out to do? Thinking about how you're going to get them to participate. Where's the best way to facilitate this? So we supported a housing association with retrofitting some work in a place called Abbeytown in North Cumbria. So it was a long way north from me here in South Cumbria, never mind anybody who's further south. Brilliant day. We took over the village cafe. So there was a little village cafe attached to the Abbey. being called Abbey Town, and tea, coffee, cake, biscuits, and residents came, and they were coming into the cafe anyway. So actually, by taking over the cafe and hosting this event there for that day, we got to talk to lots of residents. We got to talk to all the people that lived in that community at some point or another, or friends of. So it wasn't just about, yes, you've come today, go home and tell your friends, go home and tell your family, go home and tell other people about what you've learned today, while feeding them tea and cake. So it was just a continual day. And then as we were sitting there and we were watching what was going on and stuff, it was one of those communities that still gets free coal because of historic connections with the coal pits. So we went out and we talked to the coal delivery guy, and they gave us a huge amount of information about that community as well. So then we could then use that information, and we were telling him what was going on, and he was like, okay, well, I'm going to stop delivering coal because you're going to do all this work to the social homes, but actually I can see how it's going to be really beneficial to Mrs. Jones down the road there. She really struggles. I have to take her coal in every week. So all that sort of stuff of going out and talking to people. How open are we to the answers? That goes back to the negotiables. It's not just about talking to people. That's really, really effective, but actually other things that you can do. So can you have questionnaires? Can you have surveys? Can you, even if it's just a visual thing, so going out, if you're talking about what colour the front doors are, is having loads of those paint swathes, like little, you see them in the DIY shops, don't you? Like you can go home and put it up against your wall, see if it's the right colour. Can you get loads of those, and can you get some buckets and people just drop the colour they want, or drop a token in the colour bucket that they want? So they actually, it's just a very visual thing, and everyone can sort of go, okay, yeah, that green, that's the right for our front doors. We'll chuck the token in there, and at the end of the day, you go, right, brilliant. That book has got all those tokens. That's the decision made. So you can do it in different ways, in interactive ways. Recording the outcomes of the engagement is really important. So if you go all through all that effort and all that process, write down what the decisions have been made, share that back to the community. You came to this event on this day. It was brilliant to see you. Fantastic. Hope, here's some flyers and information about the air source heat pumps and the solar panels we're fitting. Here are the decisions that were made from the day, from the tokens in the buckets. We've agreed that we're painting the doors green, or however it is, so that actually whatever you've done on that day isn't just like secretive. He's just feeding it back. So a common phrase that we used to use a lot is, you asked, we did. So if they've asked for this, we're going to do that. So yeah, and how are you getting that back out to the people that have been, they've put the effort into coming to see you, they've put the effort into engaging with you. How do you communicate that back to them? How do you thank them? How do you kind of keep them embedded, engaged with this? So, as I said, thinking about equality, inclusion, quality, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility across all of this. So, large print, translations, plain English, the having it on audio, all the different things that you can do to make this accessible for people and inclusive and involving. So, as I say, I write a note to my 15-year-old son. I might as well just throw the bit of paper straight in the bin. I send him a WhatsApp or a Snapchat. I'm more likely to get a response. I may not understand the response, but I'm more likely to get a response. I think there's some really exciting we could be doing around VR headsets for people to understand what the community is going to look like when it's got solar panels on the roof, or when it's had the external wall insulation. What's it going to look like? So they can stand there and kind of go, okay, yeah, I can visualize this now. I can see this. So thinking about WhatsApp polls, can we use WhatsApp polls to help this? I'm still quite old school personally. I still like printing stuff out. I know that's awful as a sustainability officer, but it works for me. I'd need a bit of paper in front of me to kind of to work on it effectively. So, are we doing print releases? Are we doing leaflets, flyers, posters, questionnaires? Having all that in multi-format so people can do that. And then let's get out on the streets and let's go and knock on doors. Let's have community events. Let's do all sorts of different things. So if you only go out with a right, we're coming out to tell you about retrofit. They don't understand what retrofit is, so you're using language they don't understand. But also, well, it's a load of effort, and I'm not really sure what it is, and etc. So how can you piggyback onto other events, or how can you use other events? So if there's a warm home hub in your community, can you turn up to that warm home hub and talk to the residents about the retrofit and how, by doing the insulation measures that you're planning on doing, it will have a positive effect on their warmth? It's something they're interested in. So piggybacking onto other events, or creating events that are really useful for them. So in the summer holidays, can you put on a creche morning where you can come on and you can do kids activities and you get to talk to the parents? So they're buying into it because actually they're getting something really useful out of it, and you get to have a conversation without children there in a way that actually is just more effective and more efficient kind of use of your times, and they'll love it because they get half a day's childcare. So how do we use all these different ways to work with our residents and engage them so that they're bought into this? So we're at the point where we want to start the works. We need retrofit assessments done. So I think hopefully some of you guys are of a similar age to me, so you'll understand the relevance of Acacia Avenue. If not, you probably need to go and ask your mums and dads. But anyway, so you want to do some retrofits at Acacia Avenue. That to us, probably, yeah, we know what that means. That's fine. We know what Acacia Avenue is. We know what retrofit assessments are. To the residents of Acacia Avenue, they know where Acacia Avenue is. They have no idea what retrofit assessments are. It sounds quite painful. I don't think I want that, thanks. So we need to break that down. So, and breaking it down in the process. So actually you want to do energy efficiency assessments, and you want to start on the 1st of October. So you start to put a timeline into it. This is to understand what energy performance certificate your home is, and if we can do any works on your home to get your home to achieve a higher energy performance certificate. So actually I probably should have put on there to achieve a higher energy performance certificate, not of C standard, because that, again, what does that mean anything to them? That you're using a contractor, and the contractor is called eWimp Limited. Again, back to Acacia Avenue for those who are old enough. We will need to access your home for 2 hours at a time that's convenient to you. So that's how long the assessment's going to take. The contractor will be making that arrangement with you to arrange that appointment. So they're starting to go, okay, it's going to be starting on the 1st of October. They need access to the house. It's for 2 hours. It's Mr. eWimp Limited, and they will be getting in touch to arrange the appointment. So that's breaking down a retrofit assessment at Acacia Avenue. But what happens after they've done that? Well, after they've been and done that, what then? Well, actually, we're then telling them the next steps. If your home's below EPCC, we'll be in contact to arrange energy efficiency works to your home. Again, that's probably still a bit technical, isn't it? Energy efficiency works will be arranged to do things to your home to make it more energy efficient, or to help keep your home warmer. And if your home is at EPCC, again, probably should have split that down a bit more, shouldn't I? We'll be in touch with energy advice to help you reduce your energy use. So we're being really clear, and we're taking people through the stages of that. So what is a one sentence to a professional is actually a load of bullet points to the resident, and we need to think about that all the way through this process. So and this is when we're starting to come into actually developing that plan. So okay, so as we're going into that, we've got that message, we need to break it down, and just break that down as much as we can. So as we go to a comms and engagement plan, it will be big, it will be long, there will be lots of bits in this. That's really important to get the message out effectively and to get it out in a really crystal clear way. So back to that energy efficiency energy efficiency assessments to start Acacia Avenue. Who's doing this? Well, the asset manager. Who's the audience? The residents. How are they going to do it? They're going to do it by letter, because it's a formal thing. We're coming to do some work on your homes. When are they going to do it? Or 3 weeks before it's going to get delivered. What resources do you need? Well, we need the letter. We need the content of the letter. We need a diagram of the process to tell people where they're at now and how that process works. So actually a bit of a flow chart or a kind of an organizational process so they can see it. They need to know the logo of the contractor on that letter, maybe an image of the assessor so they know who to look for and what they're going to look like. Who can help with that? Well, the comms manager is going to help with that. They're going to help them draft the letter and are going to use all the correct logos and get all the brand imagery right and make it look like a letter coming from your organization so that they know that the resident knows it's an appropriate one, it's right, it is what it is. And then how are you going to measure if it's successful? So the access rates here, the number of refusals, they're going to be starting to be the things you're going to track for your success rates. How do we can do all this effort. So to also do the energy efficient assessments at location admin, we're also going to get the community engagement partner to go to the resident group, and they're going to attend the group meeting, and it's quarterly. So it's working out when the quarterly meeting is before the start date. So if the start date's the 1st of October, the quarterly meeting might be in August. So they're going to go to the August event. And they're going to take a slide deck, and they're going to take a slide deck of slides showing the kind of things that the energy efficiency works could be doing. So they're going to take a photo of the contractor, they're going to take a photo of the logo. They might even invite the contractor along to that residents meeting so they can come and meet the residents and kind of broke that relationships. So again, access rates and refusals are going to be your scoring mechanism for that. For this project, you've also got a resident liaison partner. So they're going to go out on a neighbourhood walkout 1 week before this work starts. So they're going to get out and about on the ground talking to residents. Do they need any resources? Well, maybe they don't. Maybe they just need to go and talk to people and connect on a human nature with people. So, really, really cool. Who can help with that? The neighbourhood team. So they can go out with them. So, your local neighbourhood partner or whoever does all sort of the tenancy type work, they know the residents. So can they go out together and can they work together on a neighbourhood walk around? So you're starting to see now that we kind of got this plan, but actually it's going to get broken down. So what might be to us energy assessment, retrofit assessments at Acacia Avenues, actually a load of work, a load of effort that we need to do, and we need to think through the timescales of that. We think about not only are we engaging and how we're engaging, but also how we're communicating with the residents. So we're going through that whole process together. And we're doing that from the project management perspective, because all those fit into your project management plan. So when are you going to start your engagement? What are you doing? What resources do you need, etc. If you need letters and diagrams and etc. on 3 weeks before that, when do they actually need to be created? So if your project manager is saying, "Oh, I'm not worried about the engagement and resident plan," have a word, because they need to be involving this in all of their Gantt charts and all of their processes and etc. that they're doing, because this will help you get into those doors. So you can take that template, you'll access the video afterwards and grab it, but it's fairly simple. But if you have one of those for your program and it's detailed out, when you come, if you are doing a social housing fund grant, it asks you for your resident. How do you know you will get good access rates into your residents? So this is, we have developed a comprehensive communication and engagement plan for this work. So we've got that and we're going to follow that through. And these are some of the key highlights of it. So you've done all that work and you've got a plan. Great. You're fantastic. You've got your plan. You've put it in your bid. Yes, we've got this, extensive engagement and communications plan. We're going to deliver it. We've got comms team on board, etc., etc., etc. So brilliant. Hopefully that's really, really effective for you, and you can get your funding with that. It's just an opportunity here for some sort of top tips as you're developing that plan. So thinking about your language, thinking about making sure it's understandable. So, I did what I thought was probably understandable, and then actually as we're going through it, talking to you guys, actually went, oh, actually probably needs to be a bit more understandable, needs to be a bit more clearer, a bit more plainer. So test it. Don't be afraid to, develop a letter and go out and talk to people. That's one of the engagement things that you can do. actually, does this letter make sense to you, and does it help? So think about, we in the last program that I did, we didn't use the word retrofit at all. It means nothing, so don't use it. So think about what is it they're trying to do. You're trying to make the homes more energy efficient. Everybody understands with the energy crisis at the moment, and the price of energy. Actually, that's a good thing. Thinking about, well, actually, maybe you could just be saying, if you know what you're going to be doing to those houses, then actually just communicate what you're going to be doing. You're going to be increasing the insulation of your home. So if you know it, feel free, communicate that with them. Internally, ensure everybody knows what's going on. So, I know it's tough when you're talking big organizations, but the more you can do to communicate internally, go and talk to team meetings, go and chat at team meetings. If you're the project manager or you're responsible for this, go and sit down and actually have those face-to-face conversations. Create those boilerplate messages that they can just sit there and simmer on the customer services desk, and when they need them, they can pick them up. Think about what briefing documents you're going to give to the exec team. So, is it a monthly update? Is it a quarterly update? When is it in relation to board meetings, etc.? And I think I've said this before, but about engaging your comms and communities teams early, get them on board, because it will make such a difference to everything that you do. So coming to the end now, just kind of a few points there. Okay, back to that point. Yeah, let's engage them really early. This is something that I think the next one down is something that's really important to me. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. If you have a history of poor access and poor ability to get into buildings, then do something different. Don't just keep going, well, we're going to send a letter out because that's what we do. Is actually challenge that, question it. Can you do something differently? Can you process this way in a different way? So if you can do, if you're struggling with what you've always got, try and do something different. If you've always got great access and you've never had a problem, then fantastic, brilliant. Please share how you've done that. That would be brilliant. And the last one in there, Ed's chucked the poll up. So as we come to the end, so please feel free to submit your vote onto the poll. If you don't have capacity in the team, look to outsource your comms work to an agency. And I'm not sitting here as any form of connection with an agency on this, but your comms team in your housing association or your local authority is busy, and they are super busy. So can you outsource it? Can you get someone else on board to do the comms, to develop the letters, to develop the imagery, to develop the pop-up banners and the flags and the posters and the etc. If you put in a social housing fund in, it can be part of your A&A costs, so it is partly funded, but it makes such a huge difference. Comms is so important. Getting the right message out makes such a difference. So look externally. If you haven't got the capacity externally, who can you go to? And also in thinking about the resident engagement is, contractors will have those resident engagement officers and resident liaison partners, is get them to answer the questions. What are that person going to do? How are they going to do it? Are they going to be on the ground, or are they just going to be a call centre in Manchester phoning up trying to get appointments? So again, look to outsource this stuff if it's appropriate, and if it's not appropriate, bring it in-house, and think about how you're going to recruit for those roles for those projects. Again, if it's social housing fund, you can put that into your A&A costs, and you can support and fund those staff to deliver this, because it's so important. To do it badly and to do it wrong will seriously impact on your project and your delivery. So Grant, this final slide. If you are an organisation and you are looking for funding from Warm Homes grants, and then come to the RISE website and start with a self-assessment, and we can help you and support you all the way through that. So for things like your resident engagement strategies, but right through to your technical geeky stuff. So a huge amount of support there on the RISE website. Please take time to have a look at the RISE website, find out about what we do, and if you are a housing association or a local authority, and get in touch and do the self-assessment form. So that's the end of my slides. That's me. Feel free if anybody wants to get in touch and kind of contact me about anything that I've said today, or if you've got any questions, feel free to drop me an email or get in touch with Rise. So rise@turntown.co.uk. Okay, thank you very much.